I eat gluten, dairy, and sugar today, and I don't struggle with acne anymore. Hey friend, long time no see. I'm back and I'm so excited to be here. I can't wait to share this video with you today. So over 3 years ago now, which is crazy, I released a video about how I healed my acne. This was back in May of 2019. It is now 2022. So it's been a while. A lot has happened in my life. I got married to my best friend. Obviously 2020 happened, which was insane. And I also decided to go to college for the first time. So that has been a really fun adventure. I started in July of 2020 studying to get my degree in nutrition science. So as you can see, I have not lost my passion for all of this, and really it's my struggle with my skin and my acne that inspired me to pursue this as a career. I really want to help people and I just wanted to learn as much as I could. So I've been in school, taking classes, learning a ton, and I'm just so excited to be sharing more of what I've been learning here. So the purpose of today's video is I really just wanted to give you an update where I'm at now and kind of do a reaction to my original video. I want to look back at what I said and share my perspective now with maybe some new things that I've learned, some new perspectives that I have, maybe what I would change about that initial video or the advice that I would give. And yeah, I'm really excited. So let's get into it. First of all, I just want to share I'm not wearing any foundation or concealer or anything like that. I'm not wearing any makeup on my skin, just on my eyes and my eyebrows, but I just wanted to share that this is where my skin is at. I'm still doing very well and feeling so thankful that I truly found a way to heal my skin and I healed my acne for good. Not that I never get a pimple every now and again, but it's truly nothing like it used to be, and it feels so good to find freedom from that. And I just want to share that it is possible and it's possible to keep it up. So hopefully that encourages you. I eat gluten, dairy, and sugar today, and I don't struggle with acne anymore. So that is a big flaw in my argument, or in my point that I was making, is that just these foods are inflammatory and they're bad. So my perspective in this video was very simplistic. I believed that the answer was my elimination diet and cutting out sugar, dairy, and gluten. But I believe that it's a lot more complex than that. And although that might work for some people, the reality is it's not the gold standard, the only answer, the only aspect that's important to look at in this conversation. During this process, I got caught up in the intermittent fasting world and the keto world. Now, if you have been to a grocery store recently, you have probably seen the word keto on something because it is a huge marketing term. If you're not familiar with keto, I'm sure you're familiar with the term low carb, and the idea of intermittent fasting is often tied in with these things. I was cutting out this stuff. I started to feel better. I stopped eating breakfast. I started getting on the bulletproof coffee train, drinking coffee in the morning with coconut oil, collagen, stuff like that, butter, which I'm not necessarily dissing that. I'm just sharing where I was at and where I'm at now. I was never diagnosed with an eating disorder, but I showed a lot of symptoms of what's called orthorexia. So the definition of the word orthorexia is an obsession with eating foods that one considers healthy. I definitely had that. I got to a point where I was literally standing in my pantry hungry and eating chips, but counting the number of chips that I was allowing myself to have because I was only letting myself have a certain number of carbs. Let's just say that sounds pretty unhealthy to me. I went down the rabbit trail of thinking carbs are bad. I significantly decreased my carbs. I'm not sure how long I did the keto diet, but I did it for a while. I know that I still wasn't feeling better. Looking back, when I was in the middle of it, I think I was on the high of being healthy, quote unquote. I felt good about what I was doing. I felt excited. I felt energized. But looking back, I realized that a lot of this was the stress hormones that my body was producing, adrenaline and cortisol. They're very addicting and they're very energizing because your body creates them in order to give you the ability to run away from danger. So I was constantly under stress. Looking back, I really see how my anxiety, my depression were very high. I struggled. I ignored my hunger cues. I starved myself, and it was not good. I wanted to share that aspect because I know it can be so easy to get to a place of black and white thinking when it comes to health, especially when you're trying to heal from an issue that you are experiencing. You want to do whatever it takes, but it's so easy to fall into the diet culture mentality, to get into an extremely restrictive state, to feel good for a little while, then to go back to normal or kind of a more middle ground state and to repeat the cycle all over again. So I definitely want to caution against that, and I definitely don't want to promote that. Anyway, moving on. So compare this to where I'm at now, and I am in a much better place. I truly feel like I am balanced. I feel like I'm at a place where I feel good about my lifestyle. I feel good about my choices, the foods that I eat. I feel nourished in a way that I haven't been ever in my life, honestly. I've been focusing on getting adequate micronutrients, so vitamins and minerals, which is huge. I've been studying that a lot, and I really want to share more about the whole vitamin and mineral world, but I've been focusing on just nourishing myself, eating enough food. That is like one of the biggest things that has transformed my health. I stopped starving myself. I started eating breakfast in the mornings. I just started making decisions to mitigate stress and to really support my body and work with it rather than doing these restrictive things to kind of like work against it. But I feel like I'm at a place of harmony where I understand my body, I understand how to feel good, and I feel empowered. I sleep well. I honestly am in such a better place regarding anxiety and depression, and a lot of that had to do with making sure that I was properly nourished. So something that I didn't address in this original video that I would really focus on, especially when you're considering your skin. Your skin is a reflection of your overall health, especially your gut. And one of the biggest, most detrimental factors to the human body is stress. And when I say the word stress, you might think I had an argument with my spouse, or I had a stressful situation at work, or we think of circumstances or relational stresses, and that definitely falls under the umbrella of stress, but it is not the only thing that I'm referring to when I refer to stress. When I say stress, I am referring to any demand that is placed on the body that the body does not have the adequate resources to fulfill. So this is not just emotional or relational stress. This is also physical stress. That includes not getting enough sleep, not getting enough sunlight, not getting enough food, being exposed to heavy metals and toxins from our environment. These are just a few generic physical stressors, but all of these things kind of combine. They fill a metaphorical bucket. And when the bucket gets too full, the body doesn't have the resources to cope or to function properly, and the bucket spills over and you experience symptoms, acne being one of them. So I completely believe that the skin is a reflection of what's going on inside, and the inside needs to be addressed before the outside can be healed. So that's something that I did know and I did figure out, and it's something that's very important because your skin is your largest organ. It is a significant detoxifier, so a lot of times we release toxins through our sweat out of our skin, and it also shows up in inflammation, in acne, in other skin conditions like eczema, psoriasis, things like that. In my journey specifically, in my early 20s, I was going through a lot of emotional stress, a lot of significant personal traumas and things that I was dealing with and working through. This definitely contributed to my overall stress, my acne, I'm sure. I actually went to counseling for a year, which I would recommend to anybody. So that was a huge aspect of my healing process. Okay, so here we go with the reaction bit. I'm going to play back my original video and I'm going to kind of react to some of the things I said and share my perspective now as a nutrition science student. So here we go. Hey friend, my name is Kaylin Juliana and I'm here to tell you about how I cured my acne by doing one important thing. This is weird seeing two of myself on the screen right now. There's two of me. Sorry if that's weird.
I was a teenager, and it was one of those things that kind of came and went at different seasons or different times, but ultimately it was a consistent struggle throughout my teenage years and even into my 20s. The one thing that changed everything for me was food. The one thing that transformed my life was food. I thought, I try to avoid super unhealthy things. I try to, focus on eating vegetables and salads and just be.
Okay, so something I just want to touch on briefly here is I don't necessarily think that the healthiest thing that we can be eating is raw vegetables. I know that may sound very controversial, but there are foods out there that are much more nutrient dense and much more easily digested, and I think that a diet that is very high in raw vegetables can actually cause a lot of gut problems, a lot of digestive problems, because the reality is many vegetables are not ideal for the human body to digest, especially in their raw form, if they're not cooked, if they're not prepared properly. And salads can be one of those things that are kind of propped up by diet culture as the way to be healthy, the way to be thin, the way to be fit. And I just don't necessarily agree with that. Many people and many women are under eating, and this is something that I have healed from a lot, but I think that salads can often, if they are not balanced properly, can leave us still hungry and struggling with digestive problems from the raw vegetables, struggling from the ingredients in the dressings like seed oils and additives and things like that, and still hungry because there's not enough protein, fat, carbs, all of those different macros that we need, especially if it's a salad that's just like a pile of leaves. So that's just something I wanted to point out. But moving on.
And cut out so many things that I was eating. So I cut out gluten, dairy, sugar, nightshade vegetables like tomatoes and eggplants, potatoes, eggs, caffeine, and it was pretty difficult, and it took me a while to kind of ease into it. I tried to go all or nothing. People started to tell me that it looked like I had lost weight.
Okay, this is something I also want to address. Not all weight loss is good weight loss. So now that I understand what was going on, I know that I was starving my body. And the reality is, when you are not consuming enough energy, your body will start to eat itself, really. Your body will start to break down your own muscle tissues and fat stores to feed yourself. And especially if you're eating low carb like I was, your body will find a way to make glucose. Glucose is basically the simplest form of sugar. It is your body's preferred source of fuel for energy, and it's your brain's only source of fuel. So your brain absolutely needs glucose, and it uses approximately 20% of the calories that you eat. That goes to your brain. Your brain is constantly consuming glucose, and your body will find a way to make it if you don't consume it. It's called gluconeogenesis, and it's basically the process of turning a protein into a glucose molecule. So it's not very energy efficient. It's not necessarily ideal because proteins are building blocks, and you want to use those proteins for building your tissues, for repairing things, for the functions that proteins are well suited to do. And you want to use carbs as your body's energy source. So when I look back at my perspective here, I thought that losing weight just equals health, right? I thought, like many people, oh, losing weight, that must mean that's good, right? I must be healthier because people are saying you look good, you're skinny, all of this stuff. And the reality is that in and of itself is maybe a reflection of some toxic traits of our culture, that we praise thinness above all else, and we don't stop to consider what actual health looks like, feels like. We just care about the physical appearance. That's something I've really learned, is it's not about just losing weight, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're healthy. It's not necessarily a good thing because your body might be breaking down your muscle tissues. Basically, I was wasting away and it got to the point where I really was too skinny. And I'm glad that I'm not in that place anymore because I know that was not good for me and not good for anyone. So I want to address that. You may not have any weight to lose. It's not just about weight loss. It's about true health. It's about strength. It's about a healthy metabolism. There's a lot more to it. So I just want to address that.
I feel how I should feel. I feel very light and not bloated, not struggling with brain fog. I feel very clear and alert. I have a lot of energy. I feel amazing.
Again, I wonder how much of that has to do with the stress hormones that I was under. This is 2019, and I do know that during that time, I definitely was doing the intermittent fasting. This was before my wedding, which was in December, and I genuinely think that a lot of what I was experiencing here is those stress hormones, that kind of exhilaration that comes with not eating, which is very strange, but it makes sense to me now.
It's not normal to have stomach aches all the time.
This is true.
Stomach aches. I believe most things are just a Band-Aid.
I still will say this. I fully believe this, and I think that it's a huge problem in our culture is the idea of symptom chasing, just using a Band-Aid, masking symptoms, but never getting to the root cause of why something is happening. You know, why do you have hypothyroidism? Why do you have acne? Why do you have allergies? And what can we do to heal those things? Because so many things that the Western medical system tells us are incurable are actually completely curable. And it's incredible. I've heard countless stories of people who have healed from so many conditions, who have healed legitimate allergies, who have healed autoimmune issues just from changing their lifestyle. And it's completely possible. The problem is when we just go to the doctor for some of these things, the Western allopathic medical system is not set up to really help us heal, sadly. And I know this is a generalization. Western medicine has its place, and I believe that there are many life-saving treatments that have been discovered, and it's very important. But the problem is we rely on it for our entire healthcare. That system is really set up to find pathology and to treat it with a drug. We have specializations for each different organ or organ system in the body, but we don't have those people, those specialists communicating with each other or understanding how different organ systems work together in the body. Because the reality is you cannot separate and segment the body into different parts. That's why, acne is a reflection of something else somewhere else in the body, because it's not just isolated to the skin. There are different, chain reactions down to the cellular level that are causing these problems. And when we just use a drug to mask a symptom, to do a certain thing, we could be causing a snowball effect where we develop side effects from a certain drug. Then we need another drug to fix the side effects that were caused by the first drug. And this is why so many people, especially in America, are taking medications constantly. That's how the system is set up, right? To sell us drugs. And please hear me, I am not saying that all drugs are bad. I'm not saying that we should never use medications, but I am saying that a lot of the time, these things are not really healing us. They are keeping us in a state of sickness, keeping us from truly finding actual healing. I'm passionate about getting to the root cause, figuring out why the body is communicating through symptoms, and getting to a place of actual health, actual balance, and finding freedom. So there's my little spiel on that.
And the main things are gluten, dairy, and sugar. Those are the top 3 most inflammatory foods that we can eat.
Okay, here I go. This is the part of the show where I address these very controversial topics and really probably reverse a lot of what I said here. Okay, I'm going to share where I have come to on these issues. As I said, I do eat dairy, sugar, and gluten. today. I do not have acne anymore. So I want to share the complexity behind perhaps why those foods are marked as inflammatory and why they may cause problems for some people. But I really want to just address each one of those things and get into it a little bit. So here I go. First of all, I'm going to talk about dairy. I love dairy. I think it's an incredible food. It is actually a complete protein. It has all 3 macronutrients. It has carbs, fat, and protein. It's incredibly nutrient rich. It's full of vitamins, minerals. It is really a superfood. But the crazy thing is that it is so demonized in our society, and we believe that somehow it's bad. But I have learned so much over the past few years, and I realized that, again, it's just not that black and white. The main thing to note is the difference between low and high quality dairy. And that is a theme you will see is consistent across what I say now, is that so much of it has to do with the quality. It's not necessarily the food itself. It's the quality. The way that we mass produce dairy in many places is not necessarily conducive to good quality dairy. So if you think about places where cows are confined, they don't have land to freely roam, they are kind of trapped in these pens of dirt and waste. Basically, they get sick because they're exposed to diseases, they're treated with antibiotics and different things, then they're milked, and then that milk is pasteurized at high heats, which denatures and destroys a lot of the components in the milk that are actually beneficial. Then it is also homogenized. It creates a very smooth consistency, but it also changes the size of those fat particles, and it is believed that it can cause some difficulty with digestion. Then you also find that most milks are fortified. This is a whole can of worms that I would love to create a video on, because the fortification and enrichment of the food supply is something that I believe has caused more harm than good. Most milks have added synthetic vitamin D and I believe vitamin A. And if you think about that end product, that is nowhere near the natural, whole, raw form of the milk. The ideal is getting milk from grass-fed cows. That's also organic, that they were fed with grass, organic grass. That is what cows were designed to eat. They were designed to eat grass. It provides a much more nutrient-dense milk that is just much more nourishing to the body. It's actually possible to heal from dairy intolerance, from lactose intolerance. There are a lot of tips and tricks for doing that, but I just want to share that dairy is not bad. It's actually a very beneficial food. It's very nutrient-dense. The question is, what is the quality of the dairy that you're consuming? And is there a problem that you need to address in your gut, in your metabolism, to be able to digest that dairy properly? So there is a lot to unpack there, but I just want to give that kind of overarching message. And please let me know if one of these topics really interests you, and we'll do a whole deep dive video about it. But those are my thoughts for now on dairy. Now, sugar. This is, what a topic, man. This is probably one of the most demonized foods / words in the diet culture. So the question is, what are we talking about when we talk about sugar? That's a very broad term that can apply to different things. There are different forms of sugar. There's glucose, fructose, sucrose. These are different chemical formulas of sugar. Are we talking about highly refined white sugar, or are we talking about a natural form of sugar like honey, maple syrup, things like that? Our bodies need sugar. So we cannot survive without glucose. Again, as I shared earlier, it's the body's preferred necessary form of energy, and the brain needs it. If we need glucose, why are we demonizing it in society? Why are we saying that carbs are bad? The reality is, black and white thinking is just so easy. It's so easy to just categorize things as good or bad, to avoid whole food groups, but that's not really helping us. That's not really getting us to a place of balance. Carbohydrates are just complex sugars, essentially. So these things break down, they turn into glucose in the body uses it. The question I believe we should be asking is not how much can I restrict sugar? It's what kind of sugar am I eating? How much sugar am I eating? And what am I eating with my sugar? So the reality is people often say cut sugar out because when they think of sugar, they're thinking about it in processed foods that actually have a lot of other, even more unhealthy ingredients than added sugar. So is the problem the sugar itself, or is it the things that we are eating the sugar with? That is my argument. I do not believe that sugar is harmful for us. It is literally needed by the body. The question is, what forms of sugar are we eating? I do believe that less processed, more natural forms of sugar, raw cane sugar, honey, maple syrup, things like that, fruit. I mean, there are so many great sources of sugar, of carbs that really benefit the body, that are so helpful, and I don't want to demonize them. And I don't want to demonize sugar, but the reality is we need to be asking, where is that coming from? What are the sources? Are they nutrient-dense sources, or are they processed, muffins or cakes or things like that, that really aren't going to be serving our bodies? Something I recommend that's been a huge part of my journey is blood sugar balance. And again, another topic for another video. I have so many video ideas, but blood sugar balance is incredibly important for the metabolism. There's a whole process behind it, but a really good rule of thumb is to pair your carbs with the protein. So rather than just eating straight up sugar, straight up things that are high in sugar, pairing it with a protein will help your body utilize that better and have less of a blood sugar spike. So for example, fruit and cheese, or yogurt and honey. But for now, those are my thoughts on sugar. Now I'm going to talk about gluten. So gluten is a protein that is found in many grains, and it has gotten a really bad rap. And it's understandable when you consider the way that wheat is grown and the way that it's processed. Just think with me about the conditions of the food. So let's go through it together. The wheat is monocropped in fields where the soil is very depleted. It requires spraying of different chemicals to try to enhance the soil because it is not being cared for properly. It's just being used to mass produce these major crops. Second of all, it is sprayed heavily with pesticides, including glyphosate, which there has been a lot of buzz around glyphosate recently. It has been linked to many different terrible things, including cancer. It's just not good. So then the wheat is taken, it is ground, it is bleached, it is separated into its different components. Then it is enriched with synthetic vitamins to try to replace the nutritional content of the grain that it originally had, but then we stripped it all away and then added some fake stuff back in. That's basically the concept of the American food system, and it's very weird to me. Why wouldn't we just stick with the goodness of what nature gave us already? Why do we need to process something and destroy what it originally was and then try to create it, but in a fake way again? It's very, very unnatural. Wheat is heavily fortified with iron, which is another topic that I want to get into. Iron fortification is rampant, and this is an issue that is, I believe, not talked about enough. A lot of people, I don't think, are aware of this and the potential problems that it can cause. A lot of people are overloaded with iron due to this, and iron is necessary in very small amounts. The body will use it, but when there is an excess of iron, a lot of problems happen. Pathogens feed on iron. Your body reacts to try to store the iron in the tissues, which causes inflammation and a whole lot of other issues. So, all this to say, compare this to a grain that is grown properly, that is organic, that is left in its natural form as much as possible, that is stone ground, and that is prepared properly. So seeds and grains really need to be prepared properly before they can be digested or utilized by the body. Gluten is a strong protein. That's why it makes things so stretchy and kind of glue-like. It's what makes like bread and pizza and pasta so good. but it's also what can cause a lot of havoc in our digestive systems because you need very specific enzymes to break down those gluten proteins. And if your body is not functioning properly, if your pancreas isn't functioning properly, you're not gonna make proper enzymes, and then you add things like celiac into the mix and your body's attacking itself and it's just chaos. So the reality is grains need to be respected. We need to help our bodies digest these things by properly preparing them. Properly preparing grains is a huge aspect to being able to tolerate gluten. So what does that look like? That looks like sprouting, that looks like fermenting. Traditional preparation techniques like sourdough, that's something I've actually gotten into a lot this year, and it's been so fun. I've learned how to make sourdough and I've been loving it. But the reality is undigested food leads to big problems in your digestion, and it could be the case that cutting out gluten for a while, if you're having a lot of issues, could really help you. So I'm not saying that you can't do it. I'm just explaining again that gluten is not necessarily just terrible, right? It's context that matters. Context is so important. Maybe cutting out those conventional processed products with these kind of adulterated forms of wheat and adulterated forms of food with all kinds of additives. Maybe that will really help you. In fact, not maybe, it will. I mean, that doesn't make anyone feel good. But the reality is maybe you can actually digest gluten if you give your body time to heal, if you prepare it properly. That's just something to note on that.
Eating a lot more healthy fats and eating less carbs really was a trick for me.
There I go again with the low carb, high fat. I genuinely don't think that made me feel good looking back. I think I was eating too much fat and it was overloading my body. Like I was having some digestive problems then, and I know I wasn't eating enough carbs. So hindsight is 2020, right? Something I do want to share though about fats. So again, I want to avoid the idea of demonizing foods and causing a fear-based mentality, but I do want to share something that I have been learning about, something that I do choose to limit. As I shared, I do eat dairy, gluten, sugar, quality versions of these things, but I do eat them. But I want to share about something that I have learned more about that I actually do my best to limit now that I wasn't aware of then. So that is polyunsaturated fatty acids, also known as PUFAs. Kind of a funny thing to say, right? Here's what they are and why I try to limit them. As I said, they are not necessarily bad, but I do try to limit them for these reasons. So a brief history. In the 20th century, seed oils, which were a waste product, were discovered to be marketable to the public as a healthier option for cooking their food with. And that was a mistake. I will clarify, I don't believe PUFAs are necessarily bad, but I do think seed oils are something that are generally not supportive to the human body. There was a big shift in society away from saturated fats, which I'm sure you have heard are unhealthy, right? The American Heart Association decided that they were going to base their opinion on one flawed study and basically start recommending for heart health that people stop eating saturated fats. So let me briefly explain the difference between these forms of lipids. Polyunsaturated fatty acids are more chemically unstable. They are designed for cold weather months, cold and deep waters. That's why a lot of cold weather dwelling fish are high in polyunsaturated fatty acids, because if you think about it, these fats don't solidify at cold temperatures. So this is very important for these kinds of fish. Nuts and seeds are high in polyunsaturated fatty acids, and those are things that squirrels stock up on for the winter, and these are things that actually can slow the metabolism, and they are chemically pretty unstable. Basically, the structure of the polyunsaturated fatty acids make them more likely to oxidize when exposed to light and heat. And oxidization is bad. So that's what creates what is called free radicals in the body. That's what antioxidants try to combat. They will fight oxidants. And seed oils also are processed very heavily to create the end product. There are a lot of things that need to happen, including things like bleaching and deodorizing. It's not good. Then they package it in clear plastic packaging, which is like the worst thing you could put an unstable oil into, that easily goes rancid, that easily oxidizes with light and heat, which it will be exposed to when it's in plastic. Also, those plastics can leach into the oil. It's just not good, man. And so when I refer to these oils, I am referring to things like canola oil, cottonseed oil, rapeseed oil, soybean oil. You've probably seen these ingredients in sadly most foods that are processed. You have to be intentional about avoiding them because they are in a lot of things, and the reality is they're cheap, so companies will use them. Fun fact, McDonald's actually used to fry their fries in beef tallow. Yes, they switched to vegetable oils, but then they realized the fries weren't as good because beef tallow was delicious and it makes amazing fries, and they realized that they needed to replace the goodness that was lost, and they added more chemicals to the fries to make them taste better. I'm telling you, you can't make this stuff up. Our food quality in the food industry has basically just like tanked in the past 100 years. And you wonder why we're seeing so many health conditions, so many problems. Our health is like consistently getting worse. And you wonder why. Well, look at all of these changes we've made to the human diet in the course of like 100 years. It's completely unnatural. It's completely biologically not normal. And we're getting away from these things that we have done for the history of humanity. We've always eaten saturated fats, these stable fats that are found in animal products, things like butter, things like dairy, the fats that are found in meat. It is not abnormal to eat these fats. It is actually abnormal to eat these seed oils in the amounts that we are eating them. And again, don't want to come across that I'm saying like nuts and seeds are bad or anything like that, but I genuinely believe that seed oils cause a lot of problems. So that's why I tried to limit them. I don't try to get orthorexic about it. I don't freak out anytime I am at a restaurant because I know that most restaurants cook in seed oils. I just have to let it go. I have to remind myself nobody can be perfect and you just have to do your best. But there are some things you can do to mitigate that. You can focus on getting vitamin E from different sources. That is a great antioxidant. But anyway, enough said on that. In summary, the main things that I would recommend for someone trying to heal their skin is to, number one, work with a professional. If you can, it will really fast track you. I've had to figure things out, trial and error over the last few years, and I've made a lot of mistakes. And I hope through this YouTube channel, I'm able to encourage you to not make those same mistakes. But working with someone who is trained, who is certified, a registered dietitian or a nutritionist who knows what they're doing will really help you in the long run. Number two, really focus on your stress. So analyze, what are your different stressors? Where are they coming from? How can you eliminate or mitigate that stress in your life? And how can you take care of your body as best you can? This is your vessel. You only get one body to live in, and so how can you really steward it and take care of it well? Are you getting enough sleep? Are you getting enough sunlight? Are you getting enough hydration? Are you getting enough food? That is so huge. Women don't get enough food. Honestly, I believe that the majority of women are not eating enough, and they're not eating enough of the right kind of foods. So I would recommend focusing on nutrient-dense foods, animal products, nutrient-dense meats, bone broths, eggs, dairy, butter. I mean, don't go crazy with it, but don't be scared of it either. Focus on foods that are truly nourishing and delicious, because eating can be fun and it doesn't have to be so restrictive, and you don't have to be afraid of everything. The reality is you can find health and you can sustain that. and it's fun. It's enjoyable. But focus on healing your metabolism. You know, assess, is there any exposure to toxins from your environment that you can decrease? Look at your water system, you know, your water filtration. Tap water has a lot of crap in it. Look into your personal care products. What are you using on your body, your cleaning products? There's a great app you can use for this. It's called Think Dirty. It has a lot of great information on different products and the ingredients in those products, and it's really helpful. Are you on medications that can cause imbalances? One of these things that I believe is a huge issue that needs to be addressed with half of our population is hormonal birth control. This is a topic I've also studied extensively and will be making content about. That is something that I believe has definitely hurt women more than it has helped. It is a very depleting pill. The pills are very high in iron, which again, that overload of iron is rampant in our society. The pill often masks deeper metabolic issues with the body, hormonal imbalances that will not be solved by the pill, that often for women come back with a vengeance when they try to get off the pill. And it's just a whole can of worms. So that's something to address. Are you getting enough vitamins and minerals? And I'm talking about whole food sources mostly here. I really try to focus on getting these things from whole foods rather than just blindly supplementing. I used to just buy random supplements off Amazon because I thought it was healthy, and just things that sounded good to me, like zinc or vitamin D or omega-3 fish oil or whatever. But now I am so much more hesitant. The supplement industry is very unregulated, so it's very important to know the quality of the supplement that you're getting. Do you trust the company? Also, why are you taking that supplement? I respect supplements, honestly, like I would respect a medication. I believe that most people should not be supplementing unless they know why they are and what the purpose is, because the minerals and vitamins in your body are intricately connected with each other. Overall, I would just say I really encourage you to avoid falling for diet culture, for getting into that binary mentality of good versus bad, black versus white. Things are so complex and nuanced, and it's really difficult to struggle with acne. I've been there, but it is possible to heal, and it's possible to find balance and real health. I just want to encourage you, don't get overwhelmed. Just start with one thing, just implement one change, and just do your best. Just take it one step at a time, and you are beautiful with or without acne. It doesn't define you. And yeah, I hope you've enjoyed this reaction. Thank you so much for watching. I am so excited about all the ideas I have for this channel, and if there's anything that specifically jumps out at you as far as a topic that you want me to go more in depth with, please leave a comment. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know if you have questions. I really want to just share this education experience with you, share what I'm learning, and hopefully help make your life better, help you become healthier, and just share all of the things that I'm passionate about, because I believe in this wholeheartedly. This is such an important mission. Please give this video a like if you liked it, and please subscribe for more content that will be coming out sooner than 3 years from now. I promise you that. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Have a great day, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!